Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video where today I'll be giving you my Premier League Match Week 15 predictions, where of course we'll be covering, looking at, analysing and predicting every game coming your way for Premier League Match Week 15. And as you guys can see, obviously new setting or old setting, I guess whatever you want to call it, I'm visiting my mom for 2 weeks. So for the next few videos, this is going to be my setting for the next few videos. Obviously the OGs of this channel, the people who have been here for quite a while will know that this is the room where I kind of started YouTube. Getting a tiny bit emotional, obviously nostalgic feelings, and this is obviously where I recorded a lot of videos during lockdown last year.
Now let's hope things don't go bad for Manchester United. Let's hope Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't absolutely burn the bus to pieces and we get...
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anyway.
Yeah, so lots of you guys might remember this kind of room from then. But as I said, jumping straight into it, Premier League Match Week 15 is upon us. It is about to start. We are obviously at that time of year where we've got a bunch of Premier League games that are kind of almost lapping each other. We've got a bunch of Premier League football, so obviously teams, they're going to have to rotate their squad, kind of dive into their squad depth. So it's going to be interesting to see how some teams deal with all of these games coming in with the same week. Obviously, Premier League Match Week 14 has only just ended, so players will be tired. It will be interesting to see, but let's jump straight into it. Looking at the games we have to look out for in Premier League Match Week 15, we start off with West Ham United versus Chelsea. Obviously, two top teams have been brilliant this season, and it can only be an interesting contest. I mean, I personally cannot wait. We've got Newcastle United versus Burnley, two teams that have not been looking the best this season. Can any of them kind of snatch a win from a game like this? We've got Southampton versus Brighton. We've got Wolves versus Liverpool, where a very informed Diogo Jota will be facing his former club. How will he fare in a game like that? Once again, a very interesting game, and it's always an interesting contest. We've got Watford versus Manchester City, Leeds versus Brentford, Manchester United versus Crystal Palace, Tottenham Hotspurs versus Norwich, Aston Villa versus Leicester City, and to end off Premier League Match Week 15, we've got Everton versus Arsenal. So as usual, I know I said every single Premier League Match Week, but we've got an exciting pair of or set of games coming up this Premier League Match Week that of course you will not want to miss, and we'll be covering all of those games in today's video. And obviously let me remind you that if you do like regular football content and you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe down below. It obviously helps the channel out. We are coming to the end of 2021, and I would obviously really appreciate hitting 1,750 subscribers before then. I know we can do it. I obviously appreciate all your support to get to this stage. Let's see if we can bang that goal. But jumping straight into our first game, West Ham United versus Chelsea. Now obviously I feel like a strong talking point about this game is the likes of Declan Rice. Obviously he has been maybe the best midfielder in the Premier League so far this season. I mean, defensively we know old Declan Rice's abilities. Attacking wise, he's been scoring more goals this season, and he's been linked to Chelsea for a very long time. But can he impress with the likes of West Ham United versus Chelsea? Look, I like West Ham United, but they can definitely admit, they should admit that they've lost some valuable points over the last few weeks. It hasn't been that great for them, although they've obviously had their impressive moments. But looking at Chelsea, it's just so hard to forget about how brilliant they are at the moment. The second top goal scoring team in the Premier League this season, the best defensive team this season. They have only conceded 6 goals. So as much as I like West Ham United, I'm sorry Hammers, but I think you're going to miss out on this one. I'm going to give Chelsea a 1-0 win. As I said, Chelsea just seem to be in better form. The amount of goals they've scored so far this season has been insane. I think they've scored 33 goals so far this season, and majority of that hasn't come from a striking position. I've said this in multiple videos now, but do you really need a 20 goal a season kind of striker if you've got majority of your team, even your defenders, scoring 4 or 5 goals a season? I don't know. Chelsea are just looking in terrific form at the moment. It will be a tight contest. I'm going to give Chelsea a 1-0 win, and my player to watch, although I just mentioned the likes of Declan Rice, I'm going to give it to good old Mason Mount. Obviously, we saw him break into the Ballon d'Or top 30 nominations list. He's had a brilliant year, scored 1 goal and got an assist in the previous game versus Watford, and I think he'll kind of carry on that form versus West Ham United. Now, jumping into the second game, we've got Newcastle United versus Burnley. As I said, neither of these teams I would consider really impressive. Burnley only 1 game won so far this season. Newcastle United 0 wins. Both teams are going to be absolutely fighting their hardest to get a result in a game like this. Looking at Newcastle United, they already struggled with injuries in their defense, and then one of their defenders goes to get a red card in their previous game. Look, Newcastle United, as much as I want to give you a benefit of a doubt, I just don't see it happening. Once again, I think Burnley are going to take the advantage. They seem to be a lot better on the score scoring front this season compared to last. Obviously, defensively, I don't know if they look as strong, but I still think that they've got that defensive wall. They've still got that ability to shut teams out. That is why I'm going to give Burnley a pretty comfortable 2-0 win and give them their second win of the season. And in terms of a player to watch, it just has to be the likes of Maxwell Cornet. I mean, what a difference this man has made to the squad. As I said, I think that he's going to be that kind of player who makes a solid difference to a mediocre to less than mediocre kind of team, the same way that the likes of Wolves was heavily improved by Dama Traore 2-3 years ago, although they still had some star players. The way that St. Maximin is improving Newcastle United. I think I think Cornet has that same kind of effect on the team. Obviously, 5 goals in 9 games, that is seriously impressive, and I have to give a lot of credit to him for Burnley looking a lot better on the attacking front so far this season. Now jumping into the next game, we've got Southampton versus Brighton. Now believe it or not, this was kind of a tricky kind of game to predict. Looking at Brighton, they have stolen some big points from some big teams this season. They've looked very, very impressive. Well, if you look at Southampton, no, they haven't been winning a lot of games. They haven't been looking that impressive, but they've drawn a lot of games. They've definitely stolen a lot of points. They just came out of a 2-2 draw versus Leicester City. Looking at Brighton, they're in the top half of the Premier League table so far. It's going to be a very, very tight contest, but I'm going to give the result to Brighton. As I said, they've just looked a lot more impressive this season. I've seen a lot more wins come from them in terms of defensive midfield and attacking ability. I just feel like they've got a bit more to them, especially versus Southampton. As I said, I'm going to put forward a 2-1 win, and my player to watch, I'm going to put the likes of NEAL MAUPAY. 5 goals in 13 Premier League games this season. Now, no, that doesn't sound as impressive as the likes of Maxwell Cornet, but looking at MAUPAY, I remember 2-3 years ago when he broke that 10-goal a season kind of record for himself, scoring double-digit goals, and obviously I think once you reach that stage, I think you build a whole new name for yourself in terms of what people believe of you as a striker, and 5 goals in 13 games, I believe he can smack that record this season. I think come the end of this Premier League season, MAUPAY can score 13, 14, 15 goals if he likes to. I do believe that he is a striker who's got that special energy in him to be a really, really good frontman. Now jumping into the next game, we've got Wolves versus Liverpool. Now, as I said, big talking points for this game is going to be the fact that Diogo Jota is going to be facing his former club. Now, looking at Diogo Jota, one of the top scorers in the Premier League this season with 8 goals, he will be my player to watch. But not just the fact that he's one of the top Premier League goal scorers this season, but the fact that he's also had 101 appearances for his opponents in this game. He's had 101 league appearances for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Was obviously fantastic there, but will he shut a tiny bit? Will he shake a tiny bit versus his former club? I think that will be a major talking point. Now look, obviously my player to watch could have been the likes of Mo Salah, obviously the top goal scorer and assist maker in the Premier League at the moment. But as I said, I feel like Diogo Jota is just a tiny bit of a spicier one. And obviously if it wasn't clear enough, I do think Liverpool are going to win this one. I think that they will win 3-1. Nothing bad against Wolves. They've been in terrific form over the last few match weeks. I believe they've only lost 1 game over the last 2 or so months. I think defensively, I think Saar has been such a major signing for the club. I don't think he would be able to repeat the likes of Rui Patricio at the club, but he has been a brilliant goalkeeper so far this season. I think Wolves as a whole has definitely picked up on form. Nothing bad against them. It's just Liverpool, once again, just like Chelsea, who I mentioned earlier, we know their ability, and on their day, they can be so deadly. Now, jumping on to the next game, we've got Watford versus Manchester City. Now, look, I really like Watford. I think they've got a lot of potential to them. We've definitely seen some really good defensive moments from them. We've seen some really shining attacking moments from them. But looking at them versus Manchester City, looking at them over their last 2-3 games versus Manchester City in the Premier League, I do have to say, it just unfortunately doesn't look promising. I think that's the nicest way I can put it. So I wouldn't say that I think Watford have any chance versus Man City. I remember 2-3 years ago, it was in the FA or Carabao Cup final where Manchester City won 8 or 9-0. Look, at the end of the day, as good as Watford is, Manchester City, just a different animal on their day. And I believe they can get a pretty comfortable 4-0 win versus Watford. As I said, nothing bad versus Watford. I'm still kind of hoping for a Ben Foster cycling GK a collaboration one day if I ever get the privilege to do that. But unfortunately, Ben, I'm sorry to say so, but Manchester City, once again, just a team on fire at the moment, and I just have to give them the win. And in terms of a player to watch, once again, been saying it over the last few weeks, but it just has to be Bernardo Silva. People have been saying as of late that over Mo Salah, after Mo Salah, that Bernardo Silva is probably the best player in the Premier League so far this season. I don't know if I'll go that far, but 3 goals in his last 4 games has to be the player to watch. In terms of his form so far this season, he is a game changer. And I want to ask you guys to put down in the comment section down below, after Mo Salah, or not even after Mo Salah, who do you think is the best player in the Premier League this season? Do you think it is Mo Salah? Do you think it's Bernardo Silva? Do you think it's Ronaldo? Who do you think is the best player in the Premier League this season? But as I said, sorry Watford, but Manchester City just take the cake on this one. They take the whole birthday party if they want to. Next up, we've got Leeds versus Brentford. Now Leeds, I don't know what's happened with you guys, but you haven't been that promising this season. I remember looking at you last season thinking the same as Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-3 years ago, thinking this team could fight for a European spot. But so far this season, I think it's on the defensive front, they haven't really been there. They have been stealing some really late goals as of late, some 94-minute penalties. Obviously they got that in their previous game. Leeds, I haven't been that impressive, where if you look at Brentford, I like Brentford. Obviously, unfortunately, they got that loss versus Tottenham Hotspurs the other night, a 2-0 loss. I like Brentford. There's just something about them on the attacking front. I think they can be really creative. Defensively, I really like the way they pass out back, although they still don't have their main goalkeeper. Saying that, their substitute goalkeeper who's been playing as of late has pulled off some brilliant saves. As I said, Brentford just haven't really been there with form as of late. Neither have Leeds United, and that is why I'm going to put forward a 1-1 draw. I really can't break these two teams apart. I do believe it will be a draw. I do believe it will be that type of contest. And my player to watch for a fixture like this has to be Rafinha, who, if there's any man to praise at Leeds United at the moment, well, apart from maybe the likes of Emile, it has to be Rafinha. The fact that that man was brought in from the likes of Rennes to Leeds United and has made such a difference. He has impressed me so much, has scored 6 Premier League goals so far this season. And if there is one man who'll score in a game like this, it just has to be good old Brazilian Rafinha. But jumping into the next game, obviously talking about my team, Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. Now, of course, we will have a brand new manager for the game, the likes of Ralf Ragnick. Once again, look, I will not be ashamed to say that before 2 weeks ago, I had never heard of this man's name in my entire life. But he has been praised by the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. I know, 2 small-time managers, so what do they know about football? But once again, if they've got faith in him, once again, the Premier League's a different animal. We don't know how managers will manage in the Premier League. But I've got faith in his ability. Once again, I would like to thank Michael Carrick so much, because after 15 years as a player at Manchester United, a coach, and in kind of interim manager kind of position, he has decided to leave the club. And may I just add, the most successful Premier League manager of all time. Like, literally, he's never lost a Premier League game, and he faced some top opposition. Obviously, Chelsea and Arsenal. I mean, Carrick, you will go down as a Manchester United legend, but obviously this is a new chapter for United. Ralf Ragnick, what will he do for the club? I don't know, but I believe in his first game he can pick up a win versus Crystal Palace. I always get nervous as a Manchester United fan because Crystal Palace, for some reason, is always one of those teams that picks at Manchester United and really is a threat towards the club. I remember losing to them in the beginning of last Premier League season and how that kind of tumbled off into a bad start in the beginning of the season. Look, Crystal Palace always has the ability to threaten Manchester United, but after that game versus Arsenal, I do believe Manchester United can win, and I'm going to put forward a 2-1 win. It will be a very tight contest. As we know, players like Cristiano Ronaldo on the later sides of 30 in terms of age. Will he be able to play so many consecutive games in a row, or will he have to be rested? I don't know, but he will be my player to watch in a game like this in a 2-1 win versus Crystal Palace. As I said, I'm a tiny bit scared. There are a lot of players in form at Crystal Palace. Obviously, Zaha's had a pretty decent season. Obviously, the likes of Conor Gallagher, I've praised on multiple occasions, and he's probably my biggest scare and my biggest worry for a game like this, the form that he's been in. But as I said, Manchester United under a brand new manager, I think they'll be able to do the deal. I think they'll be able to steal a 2-1 win. Next up, we're going to look at Tottenham Hotspurs versus Norwich. Now, I have to say, under Tottenham Hotspurs, or under the likes of Antonio Conte at Tottenham Hotspurs, I have to say, I'm starting to see Antonio Conte's plan move along and progress more and more. As we know, he is known for his kind of full back and 3 at the back kind of defense, and that has definitely taken a hit as the likes of Cristiano Romero, their main centre back, is out with an injury until the beginning of 2022. That is obviously a huge injury blow, but as we've seen over the last few games, Antonio Conte has definitely made use of his fullbacks. I would definitely say the likes of Emerson Royale and the likes of Rougelin have definitely picked up in terms of their form, and that is why Rougelin is going to be my player to watch in a game like this. I do believe Spurs will steal a 2-1 win versus Norwich, but as I said, looking at Rougelin, he's really become one of those typical fullbacks that play under the likes of Antonio Conte. He's done it absolutely wherever he's done, and I think he's the kind of manager to transform the likes of Rougelin. 1 goal and 1 assist over his last 2 Premier League games. I think he will continue that form, and as I said, I believe Spurs will get a win versus Norwich. Norwich haven't looked bad at all under Dean Smith. I'm a huge fan of Dean Smith. They've picked up a lot of points. I don't believe they've gotten a single loss under him yet. As I said, as much as I like Dean Smith, I just believe that Antonio Conte is starting to fit into the Spurs team more and more, and that's why he'll end up getting a win. Now moving on, we've got Aston Villa versus Leicester City. Now once again, Leicester City, one of those teams we talk about every single year as being one of those teams that will fight for a Champions League position. But so far this season, I have not seen it. They've just drawn 2-2 versus Southampton. We're looking at Aston Villa. Steven Gerrard has been brilliant for them so far. Only 1 loss in the previous game, a 2-1 versus Manchester City, which I have to say, Aston Villa can be tremendously proud of themselves. They look brilliant versus Aston Villa. The likes of Nakamba in the midfield position in terms of scoring up front. Aston Villa always pose that threat. I think Aston Villa at the moment look like a seriously good team, and I'm going to say it. I think they can take all 3 points versus Leicester City. Once again, Leicester City, you guys have to start watching yourselves because you have not been in great form, and I don't think you're going to qualify for European football at this rate. As I said, Aston Villa just a better team at the moment in the way they've been playing in terms of their form. And in terms of a player to watch, it has to be good old Ollie. It has to be Ollie Watkins. He scored 3 goals in his last 5 Premier League games. Took very long to kind of get started scoring this Premier League season, but now he is off running, and I think he's going to be a deadly man versus Leicester City. As I said, haven't been in great form. Aston Villa will steal the win. Ollie Watkins, the player to watch. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes us to our final Premier League game of Premier League Match Week 15, and it is going to be Everton versus Arsenal, which once again, guys, if you enjoy this kind of content and other kind of football content, whether it be Champions League, Premier League, African Cup of Nations, whatever it is, do make sure to subscribe down below. It would be much appreciated. But looking at Everton versus Arsenal, I have to say, Everton, that 4-1 loss versus Liverpool. Look, I know Liverpool are doing so well at the moment, but Everton, you have not been looking good this season. Where if you look at Arsenal, yes, they've just lost to Manchester United, and definitely Manchester United had the most attacking threat, in my opinion, in that game. I would say to an extent that they could have crushed Arsenal from time to time, but defensively Arsenal did very, very well. But saying that, looking at Arsenal versus Everton, in my mind there can only be one winner. Looking at how they are playing this season, I have to give Arsenal a very comfortable 2-0 win. As I said, Everton, I know you guys are struggling with injuries with some of your major main players, but Arsenal just the much better team at the moment. 2 former Mikel Arteta teams that he did play for, but I think the team that he is currently managing will win. Arsenal a 2-0 win, and in terms of a player to watch, kind of tricky. They've got so many really good players at the moment, but I'm going to go for the likes of Emile Smith-ROWE. 5 goals and 2 assists. That boy, once again, is making a name for himself and will be a major headache for the likes of Gareth Southgate when it comes to choosing his next England team. I mean, that boy has been a star, which I have to say his goal versus Manchester United, never quite seen something like that. I mean, Fred kind of injuring David De Gea, injuring your own teammate, and Emile Smith-ROWE pretty much having an open box, an open goal to shoot at. Once again, one of the most bizarre goals I've seen given, but you know, at the end of the day, you can't take anything away from Smith-ROWE. He has been brilliant this season and will be a game changer versus Everton. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude my Premier League Match Week 15 predictions. I hope that you have enjoyed it. Once again, there are some big games that are coming up. As I said, I think the likes of Aston Villa versus Leicester City could definitely be an interesting one. Obviously, Everton versus Arsenal, West Ham versus Chelsea. I think all of these games in Premier League Match Week 15 could be a really interesting watch. As we know, the Premier League football itself is a beautiful thing because absolutely nothing is easy to predict, nothing is guaranteed, and that is why we love the beautiful game at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this video. As I said, do subscribe down below if you did enjoy and you want to see more of my stuff in the future, and do leave a like. Could we please get this video to 20 likes? Ladies and gentlemen, this has been your boy Finn, FYNN. Cheers!